Portugal. There's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. The little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.
Hola, bom dia, alegria, Munson here with the Good Morning Portugal show live stream and podcast. How are you today? Quite honestly, I am like a rabbit in the headlights this morning. So many wonderful videos and pictures coming in this morning, but it would be great if you could, well, it's 50-50. It'd be great if you could send them in over the weekend rather than just 5 minutes before the show. And it'd be better if I prepared a little bit earlier as well. So between the pair of us, that's why I was a few minutes late. Well, I think 1 minute late starting this morning. So least said, soonest mended. We're here blessed with so many community contributions this morning, for which I'm very, very grateful. How was your weekend? I hope it was a good one. The documentary evidence would suggest that it is. Videos from all over Portugal. The Almond Festival, Central Portugal, at a high elevation, and I mean above sea level, not somebody on the old Devil's Lettuce or anything like that. Not that I'm judging, and you do not have to say one way or the other. Good morning to you, and by no means I'm linking you in any way. Deagle, Andy, T-Duck, Owen, Wayne, Coach T is in as well. And James, of course, joining us at 9 o'clock this morning. I think we might have an unexpected item in the bagging area over the phone, or maybe he can get his phone to link up with us with pictures. The scourge of the processionary caterpillar. Apparently, they're coming down trees and kidnapping grannies. And Lee is a one-man crusade against such bad behavior. So we'll be hearing, I think, from Lee from a cafe when he's having his smoke and his coffee before he starts the day. He's going to call in and have a quick chat with us as well. So looking forward to that. And James at 9 o'clock. And you at 9:30 if you wish to call in on Europe's biggest phone in, 913-590-303. Quite honestly, I do not know where to start this morning. But a good way, something of a habit, of course, is to go to Andy's video from the weekend. So let's work our way through the wondrous pile of footage and images that have come in. And let me see what I can remove from the bulging video and picture deck. Thank you, Les, for bringing me sunshine last week. We'll have another one this week and add to your growing playlist of the Caldash crooner there. Where's when they go into little thumbnails, I can't see exactly what they are, but it's not the end of the world, is it? If I don't see what they are. This, I'm hoping, is suitable and savory for publication and viewing. Let's see if this was a personal video he sent me or the one of him cycling around the place over the weekend. By Randy, over to you.
Bom dia. Here we are at the lovely Bagueira. They say Bagueira as opposed to Vagueira locally. There's the fishermen, where the fishermen keep their boats. That's where the fishermen come up. Got some great memories of this place. Getting the fish straight off the boats and then cooking them on the beach with the wife and the kids. Up there's Barra. Going that way is Mirror. We've got a nice little fish market here. Some cafes, restaurants and bars. Got the German bar, which does German beer and burgers. Very nice. Great fish restaurant just over there. It's a big fork with the fish on the top of it. Yeah. Stand up there. Just up here, they've got Vegas Splash, which is like one of those water parks. Up that way towards Barra, and then you've got up down towards Mirror. There it was my son. I don't know how old he was, 8, and his birthday, and it's in the winter. And we bought him a surfboard. Yeah, good idea. And I insisted, of course, that we go out. Oh man, I nearly died, nearly drowned. We went out. It was really rough, and I had to push him off and say, "You save yourself." And I eventually came in miles down the beach, Fortunately, enough time for them to walk to me, I'd have recovered by then, so I didn't look so traumatic. But yes, great fun. Down at the bottom here, there's a nice bohemian type cafe. They built this new boardwalk that's all tarmacked, which must have been a bit of a bummer for these people with these apartments and these shops down there, because before they could see right onto the beach, but knows more's. There we are. Anyway, that's it. This is us from Bagos. Ciao bello.
What a fantastic anecdote. I'm not going in there. That's never attracted me. Talk of lovely wedding anniversaries here. This is fantastic. 30 years married today. Have you started this thread here this morning? Congratulations, Deagle, and Minister of Home Affairs there. 30 years today. Love being in love. 40 for us this year. And I got a bit confused. I thought we were talking to the Andy who was on the screen with his fabulous video from Bagueira. If you're looking for it on the map, begins with a V, but it sounds like Bagueira when it's being mentioned by Portuguese folk. T-Duck saying Paramount to you as well. 32nd coming up in a couple of months. Isn't that fantastic? And congrats to you from the man who's celebrating 30 years married today. Deagle saying fantastic. Can't wait to be married. Can't wait to be 40 years married in May. We're 35 years seeing each other. Hashtag love. Aww. February, it is the time of love. Talking of which, we've got it's a bit of Tony time tomorrow. And we'll be joined by Tony Barbosa, who is available, it turns out, this year for hire on Valentine's Day. If you don't have a Valentine and would just like to cut through all the nonsense and commercially hire one, that can be done via Antonio. Let me just share with you his advertising that I saw on social media, I believe, this morning. And we're going to return to Who's the Gumper as well. I saw a lovely pic over the weekend. And I think Pooches and Pussies as well. We're going to relaunch that today. We've got a great story to relaunch that with, pardon my awkward placing of prepositions this morning. It's Monday morning, isn't it? Rent Antonio for Valentine's Day at €500 per hour, not for the event, that's just per hour. Includes cute backstory of how we met. So if you want to hire Antonio for Valentine's Day and you're over here in Portugal and your folks are around, he's your great escort and partner here. Cute backstory of how we met. Call your dad Pops. Kiss your mum on the cheek. Bonus for an extra €500. I'll tell you I love you in front of your family. Good job. Oh, look, here's Guess the Gumper. Who's that? From our community, looking very handsome and slightly like a rebel without a cause there in the 80s. Who is that? We'll come back. I love Guess the Gumper. We haven't done that for a long time, have we? Who was that? Just another quick flash of that handsome devil there. Still just as handsome, of course. And 34 years for John and Pam as well. Amazing. We'll be 39 years in October this year. How wonderful. Wendy, lovely to see you here. 18 years together and still not married. You bohemians, honestly, married, living of a brush, I think they say in Yorkshire, don't they? What phrases, idioms have we got for people who are living in sin? That'll be you, won't it, Nigel Henry? 18, living in sin, hopefully. 18 years together, still not married. No rush. Come on, make an honest woman of her. That's what they used to say, so I haven't heard that for a long time. Good morning from the buckle of the Bible Belt. That's where you are, I see. And that's the guy from Canada with a Spanish-flavored accent. Good guess. We're all newlywed. I certainly am. I'm keeping quiet. May the 4th will be our anniversary, and we got married in 2013. So it's our 10-year anniversary. That's not too bad, is it? Excellent stuff. How wonderful. Thank you for that wonderful outpouring of romance and love. Bon dia, got to check out this German pub that sells authentic burgers. Jump on the coach. We'll see you soon, Frank. 20 minutes to the 9 o'clock, or 18 actually, when James will join us. Lee may well be giving us a call between now and then, and we've got a lot to get through in terms of images and videos. Thank you so much, Andy. Not content with sending us a video filmed. Have you noticed how he does his voiceover and videoing while cycling along? Can you imagine the old granny seeing him coming along? He's not in control of that vehicle, and he's talking and filming at the same time. I'm sure Arvos and Arvos flying in every direction as you're making your way down Bagueda there. This one also from you. I think, did you find a car park? But they were getting ready for a festival. Important to test the PA long before the festa starts, sometimes 3 or 4 weeks before the festa starts. And sometimes it can look a little sparse, can't it, at the beginning of a Portuguese? Oh, how did it go with Rich, who phoned in on, I wonder how that went near Obidos, that great big event, Blues and Food and Communities Unite. I hope to see some pictures of that. But yeah, sometimes it can look a little bit sparse and bare when you're seeing the first signs of a festa with the harsh metal, what are they called? The barriers and a car park and crime scene tape and the PA playing. But by the time everyone's there at night, it just is entirely transformed. I'd love to see some before and after pictures of Portuguese festas. That'd be hilarious. Let's go up into the hills now. And this is a video. Who's this? That one at 2 minutes long, I wonder. I don't even know whose that one is, but I'll just play it anyway and see what happens. This is, I think this might be from, thank you very much to Anna, who sent in some lovely images today from the Almond Festival down in the Algarve.
We're here in Portugal.
This is Sarah, up in central Portugal.
We're here in Portugal, and we're like 800 meters above sea level. And this is the view right now.
Superb. And there's the silhouette of the little family wandering across the hills there and the mist in the valleys. Sarah, that is superb. And we've got a couple of minutes now. Let's go to the south from the central and from up in there, Bairrada, courtesy of Andy. What we've been up to this weekend. This is fantastic. Some lovely pictures as well from Owen to come. Now, Anna did say you might want to trim this. I'm going to play the video.
Larilolela nas ondas do mar lá fora. Larilolela tenho queima bem. Larilolela tenho pai, tenho mãe. Larilolela tenho rio, amor também.
Larilolela, se tu vês o mar vermelho, Larilolela, não te assustes que é sagrado. Larilolela, são lágrimas de dor. Larilolela, que por ti tenho chorar.
Larilolela, se o mar tivesse varanda. Larilolela, como tem embarcações. Larilolela, ia ver o meu amor. Larilolela, em certas ocasiões. Larilolela, ó mar alto, Larilolela, ó mar alto sem ter fundo. Larilolela, mais vale andar no mar alto. Larilolela, que anda nas bocas do mundo.
Oh my goodness, wasn't that beautiful? Absolutely lovely. No need to trim that whatsoever. I'd love to put that on our YouTube channel. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Anna, for that. Down in the south, in the Algarve, of course. And that is the Almond Blossom Festival. Festival das Amandeiras em Flor, of course. Almonds in flower. Let me just put that, in case you want to look that up online and see more images. Almond blossom. And I must say, when I first saw it, I thought it was Festival of the Bosoms rather than the Blossoms. When I first saw that, it's Monday morning, a little bit bleary-eyed. Festival das Amendoeiras. It's a message from Anna. I'm thinking Festival of Bosoms, and you might want to trim this. I mean, what's a man supposed to think? So happy to be part of this Gumper community. Changing the subject. Thank you, John. So happy to be part of this Gumper community again in real time. It takes so much more. It makes it so much more, well, real. Funny, isn't it, that? And thank you very much. I thought it was the Allman Brothers. Very good. Well, everyone's on form this morning. Thank you very much. And Bob's in as well. Bon dia, first full week here. Wow, incredible. And John and Pam have already made themselves welcome at the local store. And here we see the lovely folks at their local grocery store. Let me just tell you who this is, who didn't know, I don't suppose, that they would ever be on the Good Morning Portugal show. Thank you so much, John, for taking this picture. What a lovely welcome. That is Maria and 18-year-old grandson, Rodrigo, and Grandpa Joao in the picture. Isn't that fantastic? See, Grandpa Joao's doing some business on the phone and writing an order down. But Maria didn't miss the chance to have her photo taken. And look, washing up liquid, the new kind of washing up liquid. You call it that in America? Washing up liquid? Or I suppose nobody's washed up in America for decades. Everyone uses a dishwasher over there, don't they? But there is a new kind of fairly wicked that you can see just to the left of Maria there. It's a new, I don't know why I'm even telling you this. I can't believe what an old giffer I've become. Next to the Sillet Bang! There is a special new kind of fairy liquid dispenser, which I'm enjoying a great deal. And I was complimenting myself this morning in the shower. Now, I don't know why I was making this connection whilst in the shower, but I was thinking to myself, I don't run out of washing up liquid anymore. I am a grown-up. Isn't that amazing? I bought 2 last time because they were on special offer. Dishwashing liquid, dish detergent. Thank you very much. Should you ever succumb to washing by hand? Fabulous. Okay. More pictures from the south. Some lovely little details here from the Blossom Festival with an L. Look at those lovely socks and tartan combo there with some clogs. Fantastic detail there. What a fantastic eye you have. And you're not alone in that. Owen's got some lovely pictures to share this morning as well. And a new store. He's selling his pictures too. There's some actual blossom beginning to show. Would you say, Anna, it's a bit late this year? I'm thinking that's going to be covered in blossom quite soon, but there's no way of knowing, I suppose, when they're planning the festival. What happens? Is it always a certain time of year and they pick it long in advance? And sometimes there's a lot of blossom, sometimes there isn't, but it's still beautiful nonetheless. Look at that landscape there with the almond blossom already on the tree and an elderly gentleman here. What's he doing with that bit of string? Is he making a fence? I wonder. It's not, it's kind of an optical illusion. It looks like the fence is part of his chair as well. That's fantastic. Beautifully captured in monochrome there. Lovely Portuguese gentleman, senior, with a bit of string doing something or other next to the fence there. It'd make a great caption photo there. What would you say? What caption would go with the gentleman with his piece of string down there in the Algarve? Thank you so much for that. Absolutely wonderful. What's this picture here? Oh, James. Okay, we'll come back to that. You can do that one yourself, James, a bit later on, because you do like a Star Trek visual dad joke. From Lisbon, T-Duck sent in this one, and I won't tell you what this is. I'm going to ask you what it is. I've already given away the location. And this is where our next guest, who's going to be on the phone in just a moment, is. But what is that as you go up those steps? What is that looms out of the sky there? And from Fabrizio, some pictures from the capital as well. Isn't that fabulous? As is this, and I think that is Lisbon, but in one of the urban areas, and a beautiful sunset there. Let's go now to the capital live, and head gardener McGrady is just taking a smoke. Just lighting up as we go to our visuals of him. Have you got a coffee as well, Lee? Perfect. How are you this morning, my friend?
Not so bad, not so bad. Terrible traffic this morning in the city. There's your traffic report as well. Oh, my goodness, you're such good value. Well, that's coming across the bridge from the south to the north, right? Well, the bridge wasn't so bad, but it was around the city centre. Getting past the city was a... Oh, I see. Why is that? Is it raining? I mean, a lot of people jump in their cars when it's raining in Lisbon, don't they? It takes one crash or one breakdown and the whole city comes to a standstill. It's ridiculous.
Just like being back in Manchester, isn't it?
When back in the UK, we have those quick response traffic officers that get things moving quickly.
Oh yes.
Here in Portugal, they like to stop and take photographs, and they don't move.
True.
If you have an accident in England, you pull to the side of the road and you deal with it later. In Portugal, they park in the middle lane and just sit there and smile at each other for half an hour till the police turn up.
Yes, because it's kind of like a crime scene and nothing must be touched until the police say it's safe to do so, right?
Yeah, so
that's a really good bit of advice. No, that's really good to mention, because if you do have a prang, I don't know if everyone calls it that around the world, you're meant to leave everything where it is and swap details and call the police, right? The police need to get their eyes on it.
No, well, you don't have to phone the police if you both agree with whose fault it was.
Ah, okay.
But if there's any sort of, like if it's 3 cars or if it's a side swipe where there might be some sort of issues with whose fault it was, then you've got to phone the police.
Okay.
And then you have to leave everything exactly where it is.
Yes. Okay. From Nottingham, Leslie's in. It takes ages to move in Nottingham. I don't see police moving the traffic on. They're making lace there, aren't they? Probably up there in Nottingham in the UK. That's what they're famous for in Nottingham. So it does vary around the place. And Anna, who sent us the lovely photos, bon dia todos. Maybe you weren't here to see your lovely photos.
No, I wasn't. No.
And maybe Anna wasn't either, but they were superb. It's the almond blossom time in the Algarve, so you'll be seeing almond blossom in the capital as well, I suspect.
I know the cherries are just starting now as well up here. I think the cherries are a little bit ahead of the almonds. I think the almonds come a little bit later here in Portugal, in Lisbon.
Right.
But so yeah, we just had the first few cherries have just coming through now.
Beautiful. And then the jacarandas will follow, and it'll be absolutely beautiful in Lisbon, won't it? And you're a professional gardener. For people who don't know you, you're better known. Your natural environment has been the gardening Q&A, which we're resting for the time being on a Monday evening. So you join us now occasionally on a weekday morning, randomly, I think, when it suits you, in this condition where you're just when you're composing your thoughts and planning your day with a smoke and a coffee. But you've got a dangerous animal is on the loose at the moment, which you want to tell us about, right, Lee?
Well, yeah. After the end of the gardening Q&A, we discussed about doing a sort of a segment on the morning show. I didn't feel it then, but there's been a lot of talk the last few days about the procession of the caterpillar or the pine caterpillar. So I thought that would be a good intro for us doing the morning bit. Just because it's been all over social media at the moment, it's on the national news, and I know people are getting really panicked about it. So,
and should they be panicking?
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, you don't need to really panic, but you just got to be careful.
Okay.
So I just, for the people that don't know, or people that are new to Portugal, haven't come across it yet. The procession caterpillar is actually a European native caterpillar, but it's spreading into Portugal now from Spain. A gift we don't really want.
As well as the bad winds and the bad marriages, we've got bad caterpillars as well.
And it's this time of year, early spring, when they start to come down out of the trees. So they'll spend the winter in a nest, in a cocoon, up in the heights of the pine trees, right on the edge of the branches. Dead easy to spot. Yeah, but this time of year, as the weather gets warmer and the days get longer, they'll venture down in a long line of up to sort of 150 of them maximum. And they come down the line and they all follow a female. It's always a female at the start of the line.
Is that right?
We've been cause trouble cow.
There's another example.
And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they'll come down onto the ground, and that's where they become dangerous.
Right.
Because it looks like a snake. It's a long, thin snake of caterpillars.
Yeah.
And dogs and cats find them very interesting.
Yeah.
And they're covered in a coarse hair, which is very dangerous to dogs and cats and children. So just steer well clear of them. Stay out of the pine forest this time of year if you're walking your dog. If you see them in your garden, set them on fire. Don't squish them. When you stand on them, you squish them.
Fire.
Well,
right, okay.
It's the only real good way to get rid of them.
Is it?
If you just crush them, they're still dangerous.
Yeah.
And if you leave them to nest, they're still dangerous.
Yeah.
So the best way to get rid of them, to avoid any issue, is pour a bit of petrol on them and drop a match on it.
Okay, I think I mean, so for someone who's never done that before, that could go horribly wrong, couldn't it? Maybe professional. Maybe you should be called in. Do you deal with these things as professionally?
Oh, I kill them at every opportunity. Yeah.
Just not necessarily professionally, just on any given opportunity.
Yeah. If I'm walking down the street, if I'm driving down the street and I see them, I'll stop and set them on fire.
Okay.
Just because they are so dangerous. And I've got, out of my limited customers, I've got 2 that got dogs with no bottom jaws because the dogs have messed with the caterpillars.
Yes. Now
they've lost a jaw, they've lost a tongue, and they were fortunate to survive. So they are really that dangerous.
What Lee just said there for the lady of the 7 skirts who wants subtitles, cute accent, but could you put subtitles on? In all seriousness here, dogs can lose parts of their body, get like amputated paws because they touch them, or they eat them and then they become very inflamed and infected. Kids can be put into in casualty and emergency rooms as well, playing with them. So they really are very dangerous, and that's hence Lee's antipathy, outright anger, basically, towards these creatures.
2 years ago, we went to deal with a tree where the kid had been in hospital for a couple of days the year before.
My God!
Because the kid had picked one up, a solitary caterpillar.
Just the one?
Yeah, it had blown out, and it had blown out in the winds. So it was a really small one as well. And they'd had strong winds the week before, apparently, and one cat, because he'd been warned to stay away from the line of them.
Yeah.
But he found one on its own, picked it up, and A&E, and then hospital for the night. So they are. Well,
mate, thank you for. Sarah's saying, if you got a photo of this caterpillar, I mean, they're giveaways that they're usually in a long line. I do have a video of a line that I nearly trod on with my dogs. That I videoed just around the corner. So I'll fish that out and make sure that we can see that on social media. And I'll probably put it on the website as well, which I've been working on over the weekend. Bob says, before you go, Lee, we have seen that there can be a ring, trough traps on the trees for these caterpillars. Do they work? Sometimes you do see a sticky band around a tree, don't you, for this bird?
I was going to mention that. The trough traps are okay. They work to a degree, but they are more expensive. There's one you can buy. Well, there's quite a few on Amazon. But if you go to the top seller on Amazon it's called caterpillar glue. If you just
does what it says on the tin.
Yeah. Right. Don't bother with Spanish Amazon. Go straight to German.
Yeah.
So Amazon DE, and it's just called caterpillar glue, and it's a strap that you put around the tree. It's a green sticky trap. Yeah, they work really well, and they're quite affordable now. They were really expensive a few years ago. Now the price has dropped, so it's well worth the effort.
Such good value. They're telling us all sorts of things. Use Amazon DE Germany rather than Amazon ES Spain. When you click on mañana for tomorrow delivery, it doesn't mean mañana. It means mañana, that kind of mañana. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Lee, for being here this morning. Do this again. I mean, it looks so relaxing before you start on your day there.
Oh, so it's a nice start to the day.
Isn't it? Portuguese.
I was thinking last night, because I've started to plan my vegetable purchases now for the seeds and for the plugs.
Oh, yes.
So end of this month is not even the end. I'm going to start in next week or two, depending on the weather.
Yeah.
So I think I'll jump back on in a fortnight and we'll talk about what people should be actually sowing, because it's going to be time for sowing seeds in the next 2 weeks.
Great. And don't worry if you live in an apartment, Lee has tips for you as well. Whether you're a huge homesteader, the likes of Jazz from the Man Cave community, who's done an amazing job at one end of the spectrum of growing and food and rearing beasts and creatures on his plot. And if you've just got one herb on your windowsill in the apartment, Lee was glad to help you. The head gardener, Lee McGrady, who's joined us this morning. Lee, thanks so much, mate.
To give you a quick update about Jason.
Definitely. Yeah, go ahead.
He's got permission to build his shop now, so he's going to open a shop at the front of his property, and his veg garden is looking amazing. I spoke to him over the weekend.
Well, then we need to get him on the morning show as well together, don't we, at some point? The guy's a legend. He's not letting anything get in his way. That's the way to do it, isn't it?
He's doing really well, and he's in a great community up where he is. Everybody's really helpful and friendly. That is the great side of Portugal, being up where Jason is, where Everybody knows each other.
Yeah, and he just dropped himself into an already existing tradition of growing and people helping people, right?
Well, he's done it the right way. He spoke to people. He's learned Portuguese to a better degree than me.
Yeah,
and
that wouldn't be difficult, to be fair, would it?
No, it wouldn't. And he's really got involved with the community, so everybody's helping him out, and he's doing really well.
All right, Lee, thank you so much, and apologies to anyone who didn't understand a word of what you said. We'll work on. He's from the north of England. He can't help it. We'll work on it, mate. Have a great day in the capital there.
You too, Carl.
All right, all the best, mate. Ciao. We'll get your sorted out as well. Thanks so much. Bye for now. There he goes. Atalogo, just as he was speaking some Portuguese there, I cut him off. Let's see how well this man's Portuguese is coming on. He'll be with you after his very own theme tune. He's the Fraser of the Good Morning Portugal piece. He's listening, caller.
Bom dia, feliz segunda.
Querido, tudo bem?
Sim, tudo, e tu?
Muito bem, obrigado. Muito bem, bom fim de semana.
Muito bem.
Oh, mate, so good to see you this morning. The Fraser of the Good Morning Portugal show. We are talking about moving to Portugal mindfully, and I think we already have our first question, James. We will ask you. Well, I always ask you how your weekend's been, and your customary response is, "I don't really have a weekend. It's all the same."
Every day is a weekend. Yes,
every day is the weekend. But how have you been since we last saw you?
Fantastic. The weather, of course, has been just gorgeous this past week. I actually spent a couple of hours there. I have a friend, Stefan, that I walk with from time to time, and usually we're out somewhere, between the properties, tromping in the hills and the grass. And he said, "Where'd you like to go?" And I said, "Oh, I'd actually just love to go to the villa." I hadn't been there for weeks. Louise's leg has been not injured, but is very sore. She's in a lot of pain trying to walk. So typically on the Sundays when we would go down and go to the pasteleria and get our bread and walk around the villa, has not been happening for weeks. And I just found myself really missing it. So we did that, and it felt really, really good to just walk through the villa along the beach. Yeah.
And by that, you mean
re-energizing.
The town, right?
Pardon me?
By that you mean the town, the villa. Is that what the Ericeirans call their centre of town, or is that a general term?
I don't really know what Portuguese call it. The reference is always to Ericeira Villa, and my understanding, because I did a little research early on, my understanding is that villa is kind of a higher classification than town, or whatever, that it actually has a specific, Antonio is on today, I think, and he might know better than I do, but it has a specific designation of a location that says, ooh, we're something more than just a something else, whatever that is. So I think there's a certain amount of pride in referring to it as a villa.
Yes, okay.
And so every reference I see is either just Ericeira or, Villa Ericeira or Ericeira Villa. Okay. So when I talk about going to, a lot of people just say town center, I just
Centro.
say, I say Villa Centro, whatever.
Very good.
So I'm just kind of going with what seems more familiar than anything else in the language. Plus I kind of like saying the words, so.
Yes, I can tell that.
Gives me practice with the I, which in American English is very different. We tend to say I instead of E. So, in American English, we say villa. but in Portuguese it's vila, and I try to get used to putting that E in there, like rolling my R's, because again, American English, R sound like an old pirate. Yeah. And I realized that only, well, not only, but the two languages that do not roll their R's are basically British and American English. In American English, we say R, and in British English, we say ah. And almost every other language, especially Romance languages, they all roll R's. Almost everywhere in the world, there's a R with the R. So
the Germans take it to a new level as well, don't they?
Yeah, they take it back to the throat.
Yes.
In the French as well, I think. Yeah. Excuse me.
A Scottish one. Yes, I guess they're Rob Roy. They'll know about it up in Scotland. So yeah, the Scottish might be an exception that proves the rule. And Vilia,
so remembering to practice those, the R's and the I's helps me to then pronounce the language more accurately. So saying Vila gives me practice.
And Rio would be a good word with both. Right?
Yeah, because that's a different R pronunciation. More like the German or the French.
Yes,
back to the throat.
Good. All right, very good. Thank you very much. Villa, says Antonio, is a Portuguese.
Vila.
Vila is a Portuguese classification for an urban area with less infrastructure and population than a cidade, a city.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you very much for that. And we can practice our R's here. Connie's in. I think this is a mistype.
Bon dia, Connie.
Bon dia to you, Connie and Hank. Keep the noise down. Hank's probably still asleep. Arlington, I think that was predicted.
There you go. Well done. I'd say Arlington if I was doing you.
And who doesn't like to do me first thing in the morning?
I don't know.
Bon dia, Carl. That's what you Americans call me.
Carl, yeah. Hey, Carl.
Carl, as in, or Carl.
Yes, Carl. Or Carol. Carol. It's hard to do a rolling R with an L at the end.
Yes.
Carol.
And the Scottish turn me into a woman because they call me Carol.
Carol. Hi, Carol.
Carol.
How you doing, lad?
Stop, James. You're putting me completely out of control here. So good morning to you.
I live for that, Carl. I live for that, yes.
From Jess as well.
Jess, hola.
You see, there's that I again in the dia, right? And there'll be
bon dia. See,
your seniors, your older gentlemen, as you pass them and say bon dia, will really elongate that for you, won't they? Bon dia.
There is sometimes there's some singing in the greetings. I've noticed. It's just not. I said to one of my clients yesterday, because he said something wasn't a long conversation. I said, well, about the shortest conversation you can have in English is hey.
Hey.
It's like hey, and then they say hey back, and then you're done. Hey.
Should we just leave it there?
Yeah. So, but bon dia, I hear that bon dia, a lot of emphasis there. It feels like a hug. It's much more warm and greeting.
Yes, a verbal hug, and it comes from the belly and the heart, doesn't it? Rather than just a hey.
With a nod of that, with a flick of the head. Hey.
Yes.
Hey.
Don't mess with me. I haven't had my fifth coffee, kind of. Yeah. I find it easier to roll the r if it's in the middle of a word, i.e., Karelia. Be careful. Karelia. Versus beginning of the word, as in the name Rui, as well. There. That is a r is guttural though. Is that what are we going back to Germany? I have no problem. With Portuguese, being Scottish, says Leslie Phillips is Scottish. She's learning the Portuguese very easily there.
With the rolling R's in the deep in the throat. Yes, that's built into the language. You can do that. We don't do that in English. Mainly American English and British English.
Love it. Can you send us a voice message on 913-590-303 so we can hear you speaking Portuguese in Scottish? Olá, bom dia. Tudo bem?
Wow. I don't know if that would be it.
We maybe, hey, right. That's just, you know.
Hey, right. I have to share with you, I saw on Facebook about a week ago, he's an actor from, I want to say Highlander, but it's not that. I believe he's Scottish, and he was doing an ode to haggis, which I don't know if it's actually from John Burns or it was an ode done I think it's John. Now I'm getting the names. I might be really offending Scottish people, but it's really hilarious because he's very serious and very strong, and he's talking like the ancient history, and the whole thing is based on haggis.
Really?
So it's kind of made as a joke, but it was quite entertaining, and I love the accent. Over half of my heritage is Scottish, so it's like
it is seen as one of the most trustworthy in the UK. I think Brummies and Scots possibly are the most trusted. Ode to haggis. There you go. We might need a link for that. John Palmer got to pop out now. Time to say farewell. Ciao for now. John will be joining us on a show with What's Cool Up North. He'll be on one day this week. No, I don't sound like
up
that.
there in Scotland, up north.
No, the north of Portugal. I think John Scotland as well. So sorry, Leslie, but if you just send us a message, we'll get. I'm sure you got one of those lovely soft Scottish tones. Perhaps you could read us a little bit of Fernando Pessoa in Scottish, with a Scottish accent in Portuguese. That'd be fantastic. Leslie, great to have you along, having a bit of fun with you this morning. James, we have pictures to come. We did your visual dad joke. Oh no, we didn't. We nearly did it. And then I thought you might like to enjoy it with me.
So often we nearly do it, yeah.
Yes, we've got lovely images to come from Owen, who's opened a shop as well to sell his images, which you can buy prints thereof. We also have Guess the Gumper as well. We've returned to this, and we will relaunch the Gumper Pooch and Pussy moment as well, which we used to have back in the day. You remember we used to write erotic novels as well. You were in charge of that, weren't you? And this
you put me in charge, yeah.
It didn't stick.
James, you got that one. Go, write a book.
Write it down. So let's go to that visual dad joke there, which is being obscured by your graphics on the screen. Did you hear about the kidnapping at the school today, James?
Yeah, I heard everything's fine. He woke up.
Thank you so much for that. So thoughtful.
I had to stop and think for a minute. I love humor like that. I go, what? Kidnapping? He woke? Oh, like that.
I think we need a little jingle of a penny dropping, don't we, for those moments?
Well, you've got crickets.
We do. Before the pennies drop there, and I forgot.
Yeah, and then the drum beat. Yeah.
The random Bifana on your screen. Now, this is the early part of the
slug.
when the band are getting ready, and it's still looking like a car park, because often a festa backdrop in Portugal is a car park, isn't it, or a public area, which looks a little bit sparse, and it doesn't look the most sort of convivial and atmospheric until nightfall. But this is it earlier on in the day where people are getting in the mood, and I think Andy has a glass. That beer looks a bit cloudy. I don't think that is a Sagres there. It might be one of the stouts, something or an IPA or something. No, it doesn't look pale enough, does it? But it certainly doesn't look like one of the regular Sagres or Superboc beers.
Yeah, and it doesn't look real clear and sparkly, but it is in the shade, and it's hard to tell.
I think we've enjoyed this moment, many of us here in Portugal. We grabbed a hasty Bifana and a beer just before the fun has really started. A lot of expats find themselves in this condition, don't they? Because they arrive before all the rest of the Portuguese people.
Yeah, we arrive on time.
Yes, that's right. And then stand there for 2 hours.
It starts 3 hours later, yes.
There it is, captured in one fantastic picture. Thank you very much, Andy, for that. So, James, what has been on your mind?
Well, first of all, I wanted to say that I watched the replay of your Hello America segment or show and enjoyed it. I wanted to thank you for the mention. Can't quite remember what you said, but I think it was really great. Which is a reference to you mentioning me on the show that week. Is, oh yes, James, he said something really great.
Oh yeah, that's right. I couldn't remember what it was.
I can't remember what it was, but it was great. So,
You know what, James? I drove myself at high speed into that cul-de-sac because it's like, oh
I'll
yes,
bet.
I must remember. I must remember what James. I must remember to mention what James said because it was fantastic. Oh, James said this amazing things. I'm driving high speed into a dead end, thinking I know it was fantastic, but now I've mentioned it, I can't actually remember what it was. So here you are, my friend, to tell us what it was that you spoke.
Well, you did manage to stop before you crashed, so that was great.
Very good. I'm so glad.
Yay!
But you must have been at home going, "Oh, is it that difficult?"
No, actually, I was curious which moment you were referring to, because for me, it just I generalized it to, well, we mostly talked about retirement and the differences between men and women in that, and what our
Yes,
backgrounds are, that kind of stuff. So a lot of it was around retirement. But I think as I watched you, it looked like, oh, there was this particularly brilliant moment that you remembered, and then it's like, but I can't remember it. I just remember it was brilliant.
It's what Dr. Angelou said, isn't it? Honey, you don't call me Maya, you call me Dr. Angelou. She, it's not, you don't remember necessarily what people say, you remember how they make you feel. And that is what happened. That's what happens when we're together on a Monday. I remember, and I think a lot of people will be in this condition of thinking, yes, James makes us feel thoughtful. And then his thoughts lead us to a sense of security and insight. That is the feeling.
I would hope so. Yes.
I couldn't remember exactly what the content was.
Yes. Well, you a part of that program, you were talking about accounting, and accounting, Portuguese accounting, tax accounting, has been a struggle for me just to find an accountant, much less to understand the system.
Well, you've even started. It's a struggle. Okay.
And I depend on referrals because I don't want to approach a total stranger. I don't know them. I don't know what their ethic is. They could be the greatest accountant in Portugal, or they could be a scammer. I don't know. I just don't know. So I prefer referrals. And I use the Ericeira Facebook sites and post, anyone know a an English-speaking Portuguese tax accountant who could work with an American, blah, blah, blah. And I got 5 or 6 names. I said, great. So I contacted one because he had 3 or 4 referrals. And he, not surprisingly, he said, I'm full. I can't take any more clients. I said,
man.
Can you refer anyone? And he didn't really know anyone. He just gave me some agency that he was familiar with, but really didn't know anything about. So I put the appeal out again more recently because Louisa has a friend who lives just a block away from where we live, and it took me several efforts to set up a meeting with her. We met and she was 45 minutes late. We got it. Ultimately, we got my activity registered. I didn't even know what that meant at the time, but basically it means your business is registered with Portugal. So that got done. And then the following 3 months were promises of getting information to me and stuff I needed to know. All of this with the impending threat of fines and fees because I should have been doing it. And it's taking 3 months. And she says, I'll get that to you tomorrow. And a week later, I haven't heard from her. So anyway, long story shorter, just no success over 3 months ever meeting again or getting any of my questions answered. So I finally had to say, okay, I need to move on. I can't stay with someone who's not going to ever be in touch with me. So I got 4 or 5 new names through Facebook, contacted one via the messenger. Nothing. Contacted another through Messenger because obviously they're not giving private information over Facebook. Nothing. One of them was referred with just a name. I was like, well, where do I find them? I don't know. So I asked that person, nothing. So by the 4th person because I was just going down the list. I didn't really know anything about them, but they were all referred. Within 2 hours, I got a reply. And after that reply, we got into a text conversation, got it set up. and we had an appointment on Saturday morning of all things. Because by then it was a Friday. She said, well,
Yeah.
I can meet you tomorrow. She told me where she was, which is a little difficult for me to get to via public transportation or bicycle. So she said, well, is there some place near you where I can meet you? So I got on a map and said, yeah, there's a place that's within a 15-minute walk of me. She said, I'll meet you there. She said she'd meet me there at 10:15 because she went and saw that the place was open at 10, where I saw they said they were open at 9. I said, fine, 10:15. Me being me, if I'm not there early, I'm late. So I was there about, I don't know, 10:05, and she was there waiting for me. So, whoa, talk about culture shock. It really surprised me.
You would have taken that as a good sign, then, I expect.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, so far, everything. She got back to me quickly. We got it set up. She was actually there, and she was there actually early, which is that's absolutely not a requirement. I don't require other people to be early. I just anticipate them being at least somewhere close to on time, usually late. That's sort of my standard. But so that was a very pleasant surprise. She had quoted me a fee for a consultation that I assumed was probably estimated at about an hour. We were there for 2 hours. It wasn't all business, but it was 2 hours. A lot of great education about the system and the differences between, what words mean in America versus what they mean in Portuguese. I mean, I shared some information with her that was helpful as well. So it was a great exchange. And at the end of it, I just said, I'm assuming that your consultation fee was based on, an hour consultation or something like that. And she said yes. And I said, well, we've been here 2 hours, so I'm more than willing to pay you twice that because it's twice the time. And she considered and said, it feels like a little much. How about we meet halfway in between? So there was an easy flowing negotiation around the price as well that was reasonable. It wasn't a Portuguese minimum wage at all, but it also wasn't an American $300 an hour fee, so we were able to manage that. So I'm feeling very confident about it and very relieved to find out that all this stuff I've been sweating for 3 months about Social Security taxes, there's a 12-month exclusion from your initial residency. So I'm not late at all. My residency was a year ago. So I'm exactly on the 12 months. So I'm not late with anything, but I spent 3 months out of communication after being told that the fines would accrue if I didn't get this done. So tremendous relief anyway. So that the connection essentially was accounting, and that you mentioned. And I just wanted to share, I had this really good, positive experience finally, which goes to the place of what I believe in when I remind myself, which is everything in its time, everything is perfect the way it is, breathe, relax, it's all going to be okay. Sometimes we forget when we get into these things about, how many thousands of euros is this costing me? It's hard to relax and breathe and everything in its time and it'll all be all right. It's like, but once again, that's how it worked out. So great reminder. There was some talk on the Hello America show about the NHR, and I found I had a completely incorrect idea of what that was and what it meant. And I felt it might be worth addressing here if we're being mindful, and we're being mindful about money and in terms of taxes.
Yeah, go for it.
The summaries of DHR that I read, at once I figured out what it meant, or NHR, sorry, not D, NHR. It's like non-habitual residency. Non-habitual resident. It's like, what does that mean? It sounds like someone who doesn't live in Portugal. Non-habitual. Right. I don't make a habit of being a resident. It just made no sense to me. But as the summary that I came to understand is that people who immigrate on the D7 visa qualify for this NHR, and then they don't have to pay taxes for 10 years. That's sort of the 2-sentence nutshell version of it. Well, that is absolutely incorrect. It's like not even close to what the NHR is. You have to apply for it. You have to qualify for it, and it excludes specific things from your taxes, for 10 years. Like if you're receiving dividends through investments, those are excluded for 10 years from taxation, and a few other things. But it's not this idea that, I don't have to pay taxes for 10 years, which is, I don't know whether it's a sell job by people that are trying to promote or just an unwillingness to do the research. But certainly most people I have met said, oh yeah, you don't have to pay taxes for 10 years because
it's wishful
and then they
thinking,
don't remember the initials.
I think it's quite polar, isn't it, this? Because on the one hand, you have people purporting and perpetuating this idea that Portugal is a great place to come to unburden yourself and get a really great tax regime system, which is kind of partly true if you do it right. And then at the other end of the extreme, what we were talking about on Saturday night and what you began to talk about today is when it goes wrong, it can go wrong quite badly with fines and interest and so on. So it's quite a polarized situation. On the one hand, it's, come to Portugal, the wonderful tax haven, which it isn't. Although there are some benefits if you know how to draw them down and if you do it right and get them on time and you work with the right professionals. And then there's that fear that can develop. Oh, it's all terrible. It's they're going to tax the pips out of me. It's not quite that bad.
Yeah, you look at the maximum tax rate is 48%. That's nearly half your income. Yeah. So if you hear that, it scares the bejesus out of you. Like, what? Half my income. But that's for the wealthiest. I mean, it's progressively higher. And I came to understand all this. It was a great education. Marisa spent time explaining how it works, how it's tiered. So, well, we start with the first tier, so you're expected to pay this much. If you make more than that, then you pay the difference between this rate and the one you're at, and here's the average. So if you're making it, it just broke it down for me and really helped me understand it's not really that bad. It's going to end up being...
say, James, as a guide to people who are starting businesses, realistically, do put 50% of your income aside. To pay
plan on
tax.
it.
Because you're gonna. It might turn out to be a savings scheme, but certainly don't make the sort of mistakes me and Mrs. M have done with that. And we, a part of this is a great learning curve for the whole community, actually, because I think we are in quite an obscure, esoteric, almost occult area. It's not even that difficult for Portuguese people to understand this, but together we will figure something out. And I think there will be emerging professionals and professional services that will deal specifically with this. So we're part of something that will figure this all out, I think.
Well, and once you understand it, and I don't profess to understand it in the kind of detail that a tax accountant would need to understand it, but I understand it much better than I did in a way that I can begin to get my head around it. And it's not as complicated as it seems at first. You just have to understand what it is, and then say, oh, okay. And the terminology, this is another thing. In Europe, they use the word pension, which in America means the company you worked for 30 years is providing you with a retirement income. Essentially, that's what a pension means. Usually it's a government job, but not always. And it means that by virtue of where you worked, that organization is compensating for you into your future as a retirement income. In Portugal, and I'm getting the sense in Europe, pension essentially is almost the same thing as Social Security, except Social Security, in terms of income, Social Security in Portugal, as I understand it, is broader. Obviously, it deals with more than just income, like healthcare, for instance. Whereas in the United States, healthcare is not compensated for in a employment situation. Well, they may provide it, but it's usually expensive. So I'm just finding out that the VAT is I guess it's an English version of what Social Security is in Portugal.
No.
And again, this is all new info. No. Oh, that's right. That is like in the US, it's more like sales tax. Exactly. But it's a tax on the services and products you provide, right?
Right.
So it's like, well, that doesn't happen in the US. We don't do that. We don't. So it's, again, as you said, it's not factored into the business that you're doing. And as Louisa mentioned in the program, it's 23% of whatever you charge is essentially not yours. It belongs to the government, and it needs to be handed over immediately. So if you want to make the same amount of money, you have to charge 23% more.
Correct. Well said.
If you want to take a 23% hit, then you don't charge that on the service and you pay it out of your pocket. Either way, correct, the money comes to you and 23% goes to the government immediately through invoices. An invoice is another thing that has a different meaning in Portugal than it does in America. In America, an invoice is like a bill, or here's what you owe me.
Yeah, that's right.
And in Portugal, it's like, here's what I charged someone, so here you're going to tell me this is how much tax I have to pay. It's a different thing.
Yes. And also there is a system, there's an electronic system that people won't be surprised to find out about, the green receipt system, which used to be literally a green receipt book. So that I think it was triplicate, one was for you, one was for the customer, and one was for the government. And now there's an electronic version of it, which you do need a degree to get your head round. But hopefully you have a professional to help you to get into that.
Once you understand the portal, to Americans, I think it would feel intrusive and like you don't have the right to pay this much attention to my money and leave me alone. But one of the advantages in Portugal, by virtue of the NIF, which connects you with your money, is that it's all automatic on the portal. You don't have to figure anything out. You don't have to do, what's deductible and how much and what's the percentage. It just says, bink, 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 there it is. You've spent this much money. You've made this much money. Here's what you owe us. Here, you need to pay us each month 1/3 of that. It's all laid out for you in the portal. So you don't, in that case, you don't need to have an accountant to know where you stand, as long as you're getting this stuff recorded by using your NIF. I said, oh, I get it. Okay, so I just need to use my NIF.
And if you are doing it right, that's the thing, isn't it? You need to make sure you are doing it right, because that's where it can go wrong and then compound itself thereafter. But this is such a rich theme. I'm so glad you brought it up this morning. There were lots of great comments. NHR can be applied for by the individual online. It takes 5 minutes. And of course, like so many things in Portugal, you can open a bank account in half an hour. You can start a company in half an hour, but only if you know how to. And it may, some people are quite confident with these sorts of things, and they may have Portuguese friends or family to help them. For others, it is quite an esoteric area. And I'm foreseeing a new kind of business, and I want to be have some sort of input into this, where the levels of professional help that we're used to from the UK and the US come into this. Because it is slightly different how a Portuguese accountant will work with you. They won't necessarily be proactive or prompt you in the way that you're used to. And things might not necessarily be tied up with something like TurboTax or QuickBooks. So there's a learning curve, there's a cultural difference. And I think we can create some new companies here or services that really help the expat, which I think would go down to the granular daily level of being able to put your if you're running a business, for example, to put a little sort of online bookkeeping service that generates what you need to put by, what you can claim for, what you need to be paying in EVA, should you be paying EVA, and that we can send these things like in the best sort of expenses apps. You photograph the invoice, don't you, and it uploads it to the cloud or whatever, and you've got this trail. That's what we need. We need the trail of the bookkeeping, and we need the professional insight, and we need a professional to proactively say, you need to pay the IRS or you need to pay your EVA by this date, and it's this amount. That's the sort of input I think that's required, and I think we're going to get there. We will create companies of this kind in the expat community.
Yes, and again, a lot of that is built in. It's already automated within the finances portal.
Yeah.
If you get that information into the portal, it will do all of that work for you, so you can see the totals. So then it's mostly a matter of just getting into the routine of checking that each week or each month or whatever to know what you need to do. So you don't even necessarily need a proactive person to tell you if you're willing to take on the responsibility of checking it yourself. I tend to not want to have anything to do with my taxes at all. And I communicated that to Marisa, and she said, okay, well, we'll set it up. And she quoted me a monthly fee. And I said, monthly? What do you have to do every month? So then I have to look at that. And as Andrew just said, some of this stuff you can do yourself in 5 minutes if you know where to find it. So we're in the process, Marisa and I are in the process of finding that place. For me, I'm clear that what I didn't communicate is I don't want to mess with the numbers. I don't want to have to do the math and figure out the percentages of how much and what I qualify for and all that other stuff. It's like, I'll leave that to you. But if I can go to the portal and do it myself, then I'm happy to do that. So
yes, and that's the bit that Antonio is talking about here. Thank you, Antonio, for this input, and thank you everybody for your wonderful comments, which we'll come to. We'll have a Munson's Money moment, and we've got Owen's lovely pictures to come to as well. In the e-Fatura portal, the tax authority sub-portal, all you have to do is check if all your receipts, bills were registered and properly labelled by the seller, so you can have due tax deductions. And at that point, on one level, it's this polarity of what we're learning here. On one level, it's like, oh, that sounds so reassuring. And then on another level, oh my God, how do I get into this thing? And what is he talking about? Registered properly. And this is what is required here. I think, Tito, what a great idea, a crash course. I mean, if we can get somebody to host a masterclass in going into the portal, there may be YouTube videos, but I think to have somebody available to us who will do us a Zoom call to show us how to use the portal would be awesome.
Yes. Well, and essentially that's what Marisa did on Saturday with me. We were on the computer. She took me to the portal. She showed me, this is what you're going to do. And she said, I'll follow up and send you an email with step-by-step directions.
Yes. And that's the first. It begins with a stress attack, though, doesn't it, James? Because if you're in a hurry to get into the portal and you need your password to do that, some people lose the will to live at that point, because the password doesn't arrive, or they forget it on a wrong computer, different computer, and they get into a massive stress, because behind that wall of security are what they believe would be fines and interest racking up, and they can't even get in there. Step one, let alone all the rest of what we've talked about this morning. So help is here for anyone. I know me and Mrs. M have kind of broken cover here and have put our hands up and said, we really messed up with this. I think it's empowered and emboldened other people to say, you know what, I'm not very good at this stuff either. We need help, and we can have together. We will do this. Remember this day. Remember this day.
Well, I can't even tell you how much relief I experienced just in my, I mean, it was worth the fee just to have the relief, the weight of it off me, and say, oh, okay, I'm not going to drown in debt because I owe the government everything I've ever made my whole life. That feeling of it. It's like, oh, okay.
No government would take everything you own, though, would it? Anyway, don't have to answer that. But what I do like is the new line for or the new concept for the erotic novel. This woman showed you her portal, and you experienced massive relief. Definitely, that is one that must go into the erotic novel, James, this morning.
Yes.
Just from an e-invoice app from eFatura. Oh, thanks, Jim. Sorry, James.
Yes. No problem at all. I'm just going to say that's going to have to be someone else's responsibility, because I don't multitask well at all. By the time you and I are done, I'm going to come. Carl said something about the erotic novel. I can't even remember what we're talking about.
That's right. Exactly. You know my condition. He said something amazing, but I can't remember what it was. Okay, we're going to go.
So for me, my contributions in the past, I've been watching. Oh, I can be a smart ass and do it right here. Here's a thing. It just came straight off the top of my head. Give me 10 minutes. I won't remember what. I'll remember it had something to do with the erotic novel. And it's like, was it? No, it wasn't that.
It was something smutty, but I can't remember what else. Sarah's in as well. We've got Catherine, who's joined us. Simon also joined us since we've been talking. And let's go back then to the caterpillars. The caterpillar glue is actually not a strap. You paint it on. Suggestion is several thick bands on the tree. As once a few caterpillars get stuck, the others will climb over the top. Every man for himself. Solomon, to you. Solomon, are you the chap who rings me at 4 a.m. and sends me quite a lot of WhatsApp messages? Can someone please help me and guide me on how to achieve my dreams to Portugal? Please, thanks for the help. Solomon, I do keep guiding you towards Expats Portugal, my website. It is there, and on Facebook. I think we are very happy to help, but we need to get started with some specific questions possibly and break it down a little bit. So very happy to help. It's what we do, but you might need to be a bit more specific for us
And
there,
Tuesday nights with Gilda, I think, is a good opportunity to at least get visa information. Yeah.
Correct. So tomorrow evening, and actually on Thursday, the Expats Portugal webinar is all about finance and taxation as well. I've been trying to look up the details specifically, but I don't think they're listed yet. But make sure you're a member of Expats Portugal, and you can do that through my website, goodmorningportugal.com, and there's a whole load of information telling you about Expats Portugal there. We've got a lovely affiliate connection with Expats Portugal, and I host their webinars. So the taxation wealth chap, I believe, will be on this Thursday. So join us for that one. I'm sorry I missed this earlier, Bob, because I think you've gone off now. Bob and Viv celebrated a wonderful birthday in these last few days. Bon dia, Gumpers, loving all the anniversaries. Saturday was our 5th anniversary for our first real date. Movie, The Greatest Showman. What a wonderful movie that would be for a first date. You could come out of the cinema and sing your hearts out, couldn't you, as you walk down the promenade and go for a little meal together, and then whatever happens after that. Had a belated birthday party for Viv too on Saturday, and there's a part 2 to this that I hope I've also put to one side, although it may remain a mystery forever. Portugal's sun is here. Bon dia alegria. Okay, so I'm switching to this account now. Who is this, though? Was that you, Wayne? Now, because I put my subscription on it, and I thank you so much for that. We're edging ever closer to 1,000 subscriptions, so appreciate that, Portugal Sun, but I'm not sure exactly who you are. Forgive me. You'll have to tie it together for me, if you wouldn't mind, in my mind and on the screen here. Feliz Semana Novo a todos. What a lovely greeting from you as well. God Squad tip of the day then. We had a lovely weekend with family and friends at a wedding. I think you were in Devon in the UK. It reminded me how important it is to be with those you love and share good times. Not all the time. Is that the family bit? Just in case.
That qualifier. Love it. Not all the time.
A once a week Silver Coast meetup will work. Well, thank you for that plug as well on that. But yeah, what a brilliant caveat. Yeah, get together with family and friends. Not too much, but yes. Brilliant.
Don't forget the 3-day stay rule.
So cheers, Coach Turner, for that. And I think you're doing some grandchild wrangling today. That'll be your exercise for the day. Have a great day, my friend. And we've got an Ugo Nuno as well. Now, this is fantastic, and it resolves the mystery here. You probably have seen this, James. Let me put the visual onto the screen. And it is one of T-Duck's very own photographs. It is, of course, the Santa Justa lift. Is our Ugo Nuno today, also known as the Carmo lift, which is probably a branding thing, isn't it? It is a lift or elevator in Lisbon's Santa Justa civil parish. This lift is the fastest way to get to Bairro Alto from the Baija there, and we have more to tell you about this. The lift dates back to the era when raw iron was a construction material, an elegant art form. As a result, the exterior structure is decorated with geometric patterns and neo-Gothic arches. Who doesn't like a neo-Gothic arch first thing in the morning? The lift has transformed from part of the public transport system to an iconic tourist attraction. A viewing platform was created at the lift's top, offering spectacular views in central Lisbon. That is fantastic. Have you been on that, James?
I have not. No.
All right. Portuguese. Go on, mate.
I just do. I have a who knew moment, because I love these maps that put information about origins of language and stuff, and that comes up now that I clicked on it once. It comes up all the time on Facebook. I found out that what the most common surname in Portugal is. So there's a good who knew. Do you know what it is?
No,
I did not.
Silva.
And I would have guessed Ferreira because he's a friend of mine and I hear it a lot, but no, it's Almeida.
Is it really?
Yes, which surprised me. I said, I don't think I've ever heard that surname ever. And supposedly it's the most common surname.
I've heard it, but they wouldn't have put it in that bracket. That's amazing. Thank you for that picture, T-Duck. Superb. The Santa Justa lift there. And we will go from that to more of your fabulous input this morning in the form of deep thought, which is, I don't think it's Ursula K. Le Guin anymore. Success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. Anonymous. And that's one I think you might. That's the choice then, isn't it? The choice thing we talk about sometimes, right, James?
Yep. Notice,
Yes.
choose, and act again and again and again.
I have something else that I want to bring to your attention, but not yet. This is a communication skill. I was minded to share because I think you would agree with it as much as you agree with this.
I could
Success is
tell
not-
just by the first line it's something I teach, so that's great.
Yes, happiness.
I look
is
forward
the
to seeing the
key.
rest of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's coming. Thank you very much for that deep thought and entirely appropriate and true to me anyway. Thought this morning, T Duck. And a Portuguese saying then, would you like to do this, James?
Voz do povo, voz de Deus.
Deus. So I thought for a minute it was the voice of the octopus is also the voice of God. But that would be voz de polvo.
Yeah, missing vocabulary is like I don't know what voz is, I don't know what povo. Deus, God, okay, that's the level of my vocabulary so far. Voice of the people, povo, okay.
And it means voice of the people, voice of God. The voices of gossipers in the marketplace are God's own. Very interesting. And I suppose if you take the view that God is all, it would include the gossipers in the marketplace, wouldn't it? And maybe when you hear them, it is God speaking to you in some strange way. What do you make of that?
Yeah, well, it's funny when I look at the translation, it's like, wait, you're saying that God's down with gossip? Like, huh? I don't quite like God's providing gossip for all these. It's like, I don't think that's what it means.
We expect more.
I think if I look at it more closely, I'd say that the voice of everyone is God's voice, is how I might interpret that.
I'm going to go with that this morning. Thank you very much for that. Bon dia, Gumpers. To buy another start of the week. It's child wrangling for me. Yes, as we thought. Too cold to take the little ones out. So no walk for me today. I'll have to make do with chasing around the house. Go on, Grandad. You can do it. Fabulous. Bon dia, Gomperos and Gomperas from Rafael this morning. You're not your average globetrotter. Good morning to you, Rafael. Great to see you here. And can't believe we're here now watching and chatting live at a decent morning hour. It's great.
Isn't that a great feeling? I remember the first time.
Yeah.
It's great.
And not having to talk to us from us sitting on the toilet in the middle of the night.
Or from your bed.
From you. And oh yes, this is the other part of Bob's input earlier on. Around 40 Portuguese and English speakers celebrating and networking together. That sounds like a great weekend. Many new connections made. Some had only been here 2 days. John and Pam and Jennifer. What a fantastic gathering. Superb. In the US, this is cars crashing into each other and calling the police. In the US, nobody is ever supposed to admit whose fault it was. Nope. All is subject to litigation and dollars there.
And boy, do the lawyers like that.
I imagine. And then lawyers walk up to the scene, do they? Here's my card. Or here's my card. Fantastic news of Jason and family. That is. And we'll get them on. I think we should get them on the show, Fiona. Agreed. Jason is such a legend. Catherine, if you come to Stubal, my husband can give you a tour of his favorite thrift store. So they do exist. That was your question, Catherine. Do thrift stores exist in Portugal? They do. But like so many things, you have to know where to find them. And this... I think going back to rolling of the R's, are you going to do this or shall I, James?
How about together? 1, 2, 3. World.
Oh, very good. You rolled your ass much longer than I did. And okay, going as you should. As we were looking at the spicy Bifana earlier on. Here's the actual.
I think Bifana Slug would like that title. Spicy Bifana Slug.
Yes. Would like to meet spicy Bifana Slug for an
evening out.
Maybe,
yeah.
This event, perhaps. So spicy Bifana and Favaios, conservation in hand, watching the cars, dodging the dancers. That's another thing, isn't it? Of course, in the Portuguese fest in the town square. Watch out for the vehicles reversing at high speed.
It's a dance all on its own.
It is.
The dance of the cars and people.
And the band belt out, why, Delilah? Whilst dodging a car. I'd like to see that video. Fantastic.
Yeah, that would be a fun thing to choreograph.
Yeah. Personal referral is the best medium in Portugal. And that was good for the lady of the Seven Skirts because she was looking for a medium. She said, I can't find that comment, but anyway. Quickly, before we do a Munson's Money moment, and also, of course, Owen's wonderful pictures. Who's Louisa, James? You mentioned this one.
Well, it's spelled not with an O. It's Portuguese, so it's just Luisa. She's the part of my Portuguese family, which is what I refer to now. It's funny. I try to do that to shorten it, but it's the explanation is they are the people who are renting me the studio that I live in, but they've become family. So I make references to Louisa and Sidonio on a fairly regular basis.
Yes,
to avoid that whole long explanation, but I understand new people or people who haven't seen it before might not know. So
much more than landlords for sure.
Yes.
Right? Yes. Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. It was Andrew Gilchrist that visited Stubar this weekend, but I occasionally go there for a nice choco frito, says Antonio F. We used EI to get the NHR, but they don't do tax accounting. Yeah, Jim was asking about whether EI do the tax side. They don't, but they can configure the NHR for you. And I think many people are happy with EI service, but it doesn't extend into that taxation area. And we did
Andrew did say that you can do it in 5 minutes online, so it doesn't sound like it's all that difficult, but you just have to know how to get to it.
Exactly, that's the difficult bit. Getting there and making sure you've done the right thing, even though technically it may be a very simple thing to do. The trick in Portugal about taxes is to make debts in the worth of millions, and then you have the government crawling after you. Yes, begging for you. Yeah, that's right. When you owe millions, that's the government's problem. When you owe a few euros, that's your problem. That's the old saying, isn't it? And you're absolutely right. And if you want to know who these people are, they are named and shamed. Did you see that on the portal, James? There are PDFs of people who. If people who owe money to the government are listed and publicly named and shamed on the portal, and not only the government want all your money, banks are also doing it too, and they work together. I did find myself in the unfortunate position of falling behind with some payments because I didn't really know what was going on. I thought I was getting advice, and the government just shut down my bank account. I went to draw money out, and they had closed it on my behalf to make sure they got their money, and they'd also spoken. Go on, mate.
I was just going to say, one of Louisa's complaints is that when they want your money, it has to be done in a day. When they owe you money, it'll take 3 months or longer.
Exactly, and you'll have to sit inside a financer's office for days and weeks on end, won't you? Also, one of my clients was also directed to pay the government directly and not me. That's how deeply they can go into your personal affairs here, which I think to Americans is quite terrifying.
Get my gun.
It's my money.
Just try and take my money. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're going into the last few minutes here. What a great session it's been this morning. Thank you everybody for your input. We've figured out, not that Louisa, we have figured out who that is. That's
yes.
More than a landlord to me. You could sing to her later on today, James. Thank you for bringing that to the party this morning. Let's do the Munson's Money moment because it celebrates our connection with Spartan FX. And I think you might be able to tell us one or two nice things about them after this. And nice to hear the whistling again, isn't it, as well?
Yes.
So I thought to myself, what should I do on Munson's Money moment? We talk about all sorts of aspects of money. And, of course, the whole show in many ways has been a Munson's Money moment this morning. And it celebrates our connection with Spartan. You quite like Spartan, don't you?
I love Spartan FX. I can, in a nutshell, I spent time with Neil, who handles my account, with him and his family as he was preparing dinner, because that's when he called me. You know, right. It's like, and it's not, I don't want that to be misheard, like, oh, it's laziness, I won't do it from work. It's actually commitment. It's like, I'm not at work. James has information he needs. I'll get to him now. You know, it's like that. So I refer to them as my family. My anecdote about my introduction to them was I was desperately within a day of flying to Portugal, trying to figure out how to move my money in the United States, and all the assumptions I had made didn't work. And I had tried reaching Spartan FX several times, and I was brand new to WhatsApp, so I didn't know what the norm is. How does it work? Why is it not working now? I just knew it wasn't working. My joke is that's the day I broke the internet, because it's literally the day that Facebook and all its attachments just went down. So nothing was working. And so I took credit for that. It's like, that's because I was trying to use it and I blew it up. At any rate, Ben called me out of the blue. Like, I had no expectation. I'd been trying to reach Neil, had not gotten through. Ben called, very pleasant British accent. Says, "Is this
Hello
James?"
there.
I said, "It's like, yes, this is, yes." He says, "This is Ben from Spartan FX, and I've noticed you've been attempting to reach Neil, and he hasn't been able to get back to you. So I thought I'd give you a call and find out what I could do for you."
Check them out.
It's like, you know, in my American experience, it has never happened that a founder of a company has called because they've seen somebody is trying to reach them and hasn't been successful. Like, what? Anyway, on and on and on. Positive stories. Whenever I've dealt with them, I've gotten the attention I need, the help I need, and in a way that feels like I'm family. So
perfect. And look at us. We've got our own exclusive email address. I mean, some people who've recently tuned in, we're thinking, I don't know what this company does, but I want to be, I want to connect with these. What do they actually do, James? These are currency exchange folks, aren't they?
Yeah, currency exchange. So basically, it's converting whatever money you have in your country of origin to euros if you're in Portugal, and you need to be able to essentially wire transfer your funds from where you are to some other place to have them exchange it, and then you need to get that money into your account in the country where you are. Well, Spartan FX does that. I send them my money, and they're very good about, they'll hold it if you're not sure about the rates. If you and so typically my order is, because I don't need the money right away, is if you think there's a chance that the rates are going to improve for me, then hang on to them until you think it's at the best it's going to get, and then make the transfer. And they you can give them that specific direction, and he'll say, okay, I'll make a note of that. Or he'll say, I think we're there now, so I'll just go ahead and do it today. You know, whatever it is. So it's very easy once you get the wire transfer set up. That was where my challenge was, trying to leave the United States. But I got that figured out. For me, it was to put the funds into my brokerage account, because brokerage accounts understand this whole money exchange and wire transfer stuff at a level that some banks don't, including some of the big ones. Chase thought Spartan FX was a scam. They thought they were trying to get my money. It's like, no, they're not. Would you please do this for me? So, well, no, I don't think we want to. Okay, then I'll go somewhere else.
Really?
At any rate, I figured it out. So, yeah. And Ben is the one who said, he said, well, do you have a brokerage account? I said, yes. He said, well, it might be easier if you just put your money into that account, like a bank account, and transfer it from there. And it's gone seamlessly doing it that way. I'm sure it goes seamlessly with banks as well. But again, my experience was not that. I found it worked really well doing that. So I order wire transfer from my brokerage. It goes to my Spartan FX account, which is identified to me only. So it's never going to get mixed up with someone else's money. They'll hold it for, I think, up to a year at no cost if you want to do that. And then they will transfer according to whatever instructions they have from you. And there's no charge for that service. There's no charge to hold your money and no charge to transfer it. There's no charge to open an account. So I'm assuming the way they make money is in whatever transfer fees they have, which are competitive on every level that I've seen. So,
yeah, that's right. They make the money in the deal. And somebody asked on a webinar last week, why don't I just get my bank to do this? Why don't I ask my bank to just change the money? And it's because the banks aren't really into that, and won't be as competitive, generally speaking, as
yeah, they'll charge you more. And in my case, I was with a credit union, and they don't do wire transfers. That was my dilemma trying to leave the United States. We don't do that. It's like, what? I'm leaving tomorrow.
Yes.
Uh,
Dear. Okay, you left it a bit
and
late
I'm
there.
on the internet and I can't reach anybody.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah.
All right, let's resolve a few things. We were after 10, but there's been such a great show this morning with everybody's information and your fine input about taxation matters. And yeah, just before we leave that, GMP at SpartanFX.co.uk, or just go to SpartanFX.co.uk and you can open up your free account there. And we will resolve one or two things this morning that we have yet to share with you. This one I wanted to share with you specifically, James, which is this lovely meme that came up that I saw. I thought James will like this. And thank you, Vitor, for this, actually. Sometimes we don't want solutions. Well, you could try. That's a very sort of male stereotypical response, isn't it? You're told something. Well, what you ought to do is this. Sometimes, in fact, we just want to be seen for what we are feeling. What's your comment on that, James?
Well, I would add heard, seen and heard, or seen or heard. But yeah, and again, I don't want to say there's anything wrong with wanting to help. And this tends to be gender role influenced. Males tend to say, I love you by fixing things. Like,
yep.
Look, honey, I built you a doghouse. Like, oh,
thank you so
you
much.
don't even have a dog. But I knew you wanted a dog, so I built this doghouse. You know, it's like, I love you. I'm hearing you. But
yes.
Often it doesn't go across that way. And so what I have learned is to ask, if I'm not clear, what do you need from me? When
yes.
Do you need suggestions? Do you need advice? Do you just need me to listen? What do you need from me?
Yeah.
Because again, very grossly stereotypically, if a man knows what his job is, he'll do it.
Yes.
Right. My job is to support my family. My job is to be a good husband. My job is whatever it is. It's like, okay, that's how I say I love you. I do that. To me, it reminds me of dogs very much. And again, not as a put down, but just as an energy. So to be clear on what my role is no, I just need you to listen. It's like, oh, okay. That's my job. I can listen. I'll listen.
And if you haven't figured that out, the problem tends to be, as I've discovered, and we've got so much better at this now, and I wish I'd known this a long time ago, is if you're not clear that what you're doing is listening and hearing and witnessing, and your partner says, I'm really upset at the moment, my immediate response is like, what have I done now? Not just here. And taking things personally.
It's not all about you, and then it gets worse. Yeah.
Right. What do you mean it's not all about me? And then it escalates from there.
Yes.
Okay,
well, and another thing, if you're sensitive to it, well, we're not responsible for how the other person reacts. If we want to be responsible for being effectively communicating, if we pay attention to the reaction, we'll see the other person getting more and more irritated when we think we're helping. Like, well, have you tried this? Like, no, I haven't tried that. And then eventually, if we push that hard enough, that line of not just listening, then they get mad at us because they're not getting what they want from us. What's on them is they haven't communicated clearly what they want from us. But so that's where it breaks down. We haven't made an agreement about what this transaction is.
Yes.
This is me listening to you. This is not me fixing or advising, or you just need me to hear what's going on. Okay.
It's like when I tell Gilda, exactly. It's like when I tell Gilda about how I've cooked my sardines. I just want to be seen and heard, not to be criticized. No, Gilda was upset about her food, actually. She just wanted her feelings to be heard, not to be told she was brave. And I totally get that. And in this environment, when I've been on the screen with Gilda, and she because she's so authentic and transparent and open, it's very difficult for me to just be with her while she's upset. I do feel the need to want to fix it or do something about it or tell her she's brave. But I totally accept what you're saying there. Thank you very much for that.
Me too.
Insight.
I actually realized that kind of in the moment. I said, "Oh, I'm doing what I actually teach not to do. What I try to pay attention to. Telling someone it's all okay or you're okay. It's about them doesn't give them what they need in the moment."
Yes. And I, in my mind, I'm imagining people screaming at the screen, "Help, this woman's upset, do something about it." And then you and me, James, are like bookends either side of her going, "We hear you." True help.
Yeah, well, and reflecting back, reflecting back the feelings so they feel heard. Like, how do you know you're heard if someone can tell you what they heard you say? At the very least, they heard you. They may not understand it, but they heard you. So to say, "Oh, you sound really upset about that," you know, how was that experience for you? And just let them talk about it rather than trying to fix it in the moment. Yes, absolutely.
And if you want to move the day on really quickly, the best combo then would be, "Oh, I can see you're upset. Where do you want the shelves?" Job done, right?
There you go. I'll go fix that door now.
I'll build you the dog kennel, and I can see that you're angry. True help is given according to the terms the helped one needs. So true, Joel. If not the way the helper decides, or if one can't, do not help at all. Joel F.
Yes.
Yes, excellent stuff. And we've got a review.
And I will add that so much of how we react to other people's suffering, which includes our children, is to try and fix it because it's too difficult for us to be in the experience of them suffering.
Yes,
so
indeed.
It becomes an egoistic kind of thing. It's like, I need you to stop feeling this way because it's making me uncomfortable.
Yes, go
and
to
that
your room.
That never helps. You know, like, oh, no, oh, you know, a child hurts themselves. Oh, you'll be okay. You'll be okay. You know, let me kiss it, whatever. I saw a great video recently where you just let them have the experience in the moment. It hurts. Like, oh, I know. It looks like it hurts really bad. I don't want to fix it. Okay, let's see. Let's get it washed off. It still hurts. Let them hurt. Do what you can to help, and they'll get over it.
Yes.
And that's true of adults as well. The example applies in every situation. Be with the person where they're at. Be empathic, compassionate, sympathetic. Do what you can to help if they want it, and it will pass. But we get, I don't know what it is we're afraid of, but we're uncomfortable with it, and we want it to stop now.
It all comes from a good place, but it can go horribly wrong. I mean, that's life, isn't it? It comes from a good place, and it can go horribly wrong. There you go. That's life summed up in a sentence.
In the long run, you know, boys especially, but I think children in general learn that somehow it's not okay to cry because we're trying to get them to stop crying.
Yeah. Well, my tears, where I was asked not to cry, or shouted on, told not to cry when I was a kid, it's all coming out now, James. It all comes out in the end. Rarely a day goes past where I'm not. I mean, I was watching that flipping Anna. Thank you so much for sending in the almond blossom video. I was just hearing the music on that and I was tearing up. So don't worry, it comes out in the end. We're going to climax with Owen. How glad are you to hear that, James?
Well, it always depends on what it actually means.
All right. Okay. What it means is this, my friend. Look at these beautiful pictures.
Oh, yes. That is beautiful.
That's enough to tear you up, isn't it? And another, look at that, sort of tiger stripes in the sky as well. And then later on, a moon pic there, Owen's moon for us.
Yeah. If you had said, "Do you want to see Owen's moon?" I probably would have declined. But you know, this, all right, yes.
It's all about context, isn't it? It's all about context. OwenLMartin.pickfair.com if you want to buy a print of these. He's just set that up. We'll stick that in the Gumper store as well. James, you're getting a laughing emoji there.
Thank you, Sarah.
Look at these pictures. Oh, superb, Owen. Thank you very much. Lovely to climax with you this morning. And you, James, as well. I don't want you to feel left out of that particular and rather awkward comment there. Andrew, I'm going to need you to go ahead and feel better, okay? That'll be great. Is that good?
That will take care of me. Thank you.
Try it. Yes, try.
Please stop that. I'll feel better.
Then you can book in after. Slapped around the face with James and book a session. Each time I hear someone telling me all is going to be okay after I had a bad experience, it does not give me hope. In fact, what it does is to almost turn my problem into a ridiculous one. And that pisses me off. Wow, F, you're getting it out. Thank you, mate. You tell us how
it's not just usual. And that's the important lesson. This can be applied across the board. If we're not getting our needs met when we're upset, it's going to make it worse. So the trick of being the listener and the simple answer to being the listener is shut up and listen. That's it.
Shut up and listen. That's what you should call your company. James, shut up and listen psychotherapy services.
That would be my advice. Everyone comes in, I have this problem. Just shut up and listen. That'll be $200. Thank you. Okay. Next.
Thank you, Wayne, for this. Great fun for kids. It's like treasure hunt, but it's everywhere in the world. And this is, I know some other people here like a bit of geocaching. We'll talk about this tomorrow. We'll carry it forward because we've got to go. I had a beautiful sunrise this morning with a full moon on show at 180 degrees. I'm not sure quite how to take that, but what I'm going to do is say thank you so much to you, James. Thank you to everyone this morning. Thanks to Lee for phoning in as well. Owen for your lovely photographs. Anna, everybody, Andy, who sent in their images. It's a lovely way to start the week, especially with you as we look towards moving to Portugal mindfully. And as T-Duck said, a lot of information this morning and underwritten or sponsored by fun as well. That's how we roll this. So cheers,
Sponsored
James.
by fun.
Great week, my friend. And
thank you so much.
Monday, and we'll be joined by this character tomorrow, Antonio, who's available for €500, an extra 500 if you need him to tell you he loves you. Will be joining us for some Tony time in the morning. Have a great day, everybody, and ciao for now. Should we hit that button, James?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
In Portugal, there's a YouTube show full of fun facts you need to know. Carl rings the bell and the members show to the GMP morning show. Featured guests will come and they will blow your mind. The audience will do so in kind. A little vanity mixed with some insanity on the morning show with GMP.
Good morning, Portugal, and I'd like to welcome you to another fantastic day.
Hey, Gumpers.